Welcome back to my channel. My name is Robin. I garden in Zone 6 in Northwest Connecticut. Well, I think we might finally be past the freeze. We had our latest freeze ever last week, and I really had a lot of damage, and I'm going to show you what that was, and then I'm going to get around to fixing it. But this week, what I really wanted to talk to you about is it's time to pinch back your herbaceous perennials. This is sometimes called the Chelsea chop. I just call it pinching back. Why is it called the Chelsea chop? Because this week is the Chelsea Flower Show in England, something I would love to attend one of these days. Now, the difference between pinching back and deadheading, all right? So we're not talking about deadheading our perennials right now. We're talking about pinching them back. So we're trying to control the overall height of these plants. So this is Sedum Autumn Joy. If I don't pinch this back at all, it's gonna, when it flowers, it's gonna be this tall, it's gonna be flopping, and I'm gonna need to support it. So at this time of the year, it's a good thing to pinch these things back by a third. Maybe you'll delay the bloom for a few days. It really won't hurt your plants. So what kinds of plants are we going to do this to? We're going to do this to sedum, the tall sedums. You can do this with your like herbstone Rebecca. I'm going to do it to Helianthus. You could do it with Penstemons, Phlox, black-eyed Susans, Coneflowers, especially Asters. I have an Aster behind me that we're going to do that to because last year it really kind of went out of control. Yarrow is another one that you could do. So we're going to, I'm going to show you close up how I'm going to cut these back, and that's called pinching, or like I said, Chelsea chop, which, I don't exactly use. This is a very good time of year, though, to make sure you get supports on your perennials that need support. Do it now, because once they start growing, it's almost impossible to get them on. Same thing with dahlias. If you put your dahlias in the ground, make sure you put a stake behind them where the tuber is, right when you plant it, because otherwise, once it's really growing, I have some that are already pretty big. Now, mine are going to be in containers this year. I think I've told you that before, because I've had so much trouble with voles eating stuff. But otherwise, if you go to put a stake in the ground now behind a dahlia, you're going to poke a hole in your tuber. It doesn't work. So something to think about. Another thing I kind of wanted to talk about, since it is Chelsea Garden, the Chelsea Garden show this week, I happen to love Monty Don. I follow him all the time. One of the things he does remind us is consider what a plant is going to look like as it's dying. So we have our daffodils and our tulips, our alliums. Alliums have big strappy leaves, and we can take a look at those. But what happens as those are dying? They look ugly. So try and think of what plants are going to go around those things so it'll hide the dying foliage. I use Nepeta all the time. Catmint is one of my top go-tos to hide dying foliage. The other thing that's great about, I don't know if you, since you watch me on YouTube, I assume you watch some YouTube, and the Chelsea Garden show is available to watch highlights on YouTube, and it's great. The colors, the inspiration, the unique plant combinations, it's so worth watching for some great ideas. So if you're a garden lover, I highly suggest watching it. Monty Don is on part of it, and I love Monty Don. So let's get going and let's get these things pinched back. So now when we talk about deadheading, that's a little bit different, but there are also annuals, not just herbaceous perennials, that can benefit from pinching. So now, again, this is probably going to slightly delay the flowering, but it encourages branching, and this is something that we really want to do. So whether it's your dahlias, your zinnias, your cosmos, coleus, salvias, snapdragons, mums especially, ageratum, larkspur, these are things, it creates a stronger, bushier plant, and you'll have way more flowers. I mean, if you're not a cut flower farmer where you're looking for that, one tall single dahlia, this is great for the home gardener. So you can have lots of bouquets. Again, pinching those plants back is not deadheading. Deadheading is my rose has now finished blooming, and I'm going to cut that off so the plant is not putting its energy into keeping that plant alive or setting seed. So anything like dahlias are good to deadhead, zinnias are good to deadhead, cosmos are good to deadhead. Again, this is different than pinching back. Pinching back is you're actually cutting something back. So like with a dahlia, you're going to be going down like 3 or 4. Once you have like 3 or 4 leaves, you're going to be pinching that center of that dahlia out. The same with zinnias. When you're deadheading, you're getting rid of spent blooms, so the plant is not wasting its energy and it continues to produce plants. Like I said, autumn sedum joy gets very tall, the flowers are tall, and it does tend to flop. So I'm going to come in down to a leaf set. So here you can see I have the branch, I have multiple leaves, and I'm just going to cut that. I'm going to take this entire plant down based on that. This will help control the height. So you can see I'm taking it down by about 1/3. I'm not looking to, not have it bloom. Now, this is an aster, Raven's favorite. I love it. It's got a beautiful little lavender flower. Last year, I had a rose next to it, and it literally took over. It got gigantic. So this will definitely benefit from pinching. So, and I mean, you could do it with your hands. I'm just doing it with a clipper. So again, I'm taking this down. I'm going to take this down by about 1/3. Frankly, you could do this with a trimmer. You really don't have to do this. And I'll actually show you. Instead of just doing like one little thing, I could just take this as a clump and cut it 1, 2, 3 and be done with it. Don't make gardening hard. It shouldn't be hard. You don't want it to be tons of extra work. Do it whatever's the easiest way. So again, I'm taking this down by about 1/3. It'll help control its size. Like I said, maybe it'll delay the flowering a little bit. This doesn't bloom till the fall anyway. It's got plenty of time to recover. So this is an aster. And that also gives, the plants around it a little bit more room. So here I have some drumstick alliums all over this bed. There's some drops of Jupiter. This is one of my new favorites. Absolute one of my new favorites. I'm putting it all over the place. But it gives the plants around it a chance to also be the star. This is not going to, be the highlight of this bed until, late fall. So for now, let's see everything else that's, going on here. Okay. Again, I'm going to take a few minutes after finish shooting this video to come back and just clean it up so it looks okay. All right, so that's our aster. Let's go and do the helenium that's right next to it. So we just did the aster, okay? Again, just take it down to a set of leaves, okay? Now, this is a helenium minus the weeds. Okay, so the same thing. This also gets very tall. You can see I do have a support for it. But again, another thing to do is just take this down by 1/3. You're really not going to hurt these plants by doing this. They're not going to bloom. These plants that I'm doing right now are all going to bloom in the fall. So it doesn't make a difference if I'm cutting them now. So I'm going to take these down. Again, you could just literally chop it like I just did the aster here, and take these all down by about 1/3 and figure out how in God's name to get a huge weed out of there. You know, things get embedded in there and there's not much you can do. You don't want to spray it. If I have weeds where I can get to them separate from the plants, I do use Captain Jack's Dead Weed Brew. But I can't do that obviously when I've got a big dandelion right in the middle. Right in the middle of my Helianthus. How does that get there? And can't get that out. Okay. So I'm taking this down. Like I said, I can't get that thing out. Now, some of these are not all that tall yet. Hang on, let me get my knee pad out of the way. All right, so again, just to show you, I'm just taking this down to a set of leaves and trying to get the height down by about a third, just to control the height a little bit. It'll still flower just like it was going to. You're not doing anything to ruin the plant, and you're actually benefiting the plant, because what's going to happen is, you know, when you cut down like to a leaf set, you're actually encouraging the plant to branch out and bush out a little bit more. So let's do this with a few more plants. So I've got a whole string of plants back here that really can benefit from this. So let's move the camera and we'll figure out how to get these cut. All right, so here we have Rebecca herbstone. This, again, will way cover this support that I have for it. Every year we tie it up. Every year it flops. This can really benefit, and also it's going to open up, you know, this leaf canopy a little bit, so it will allow some air. I've had trouble in the past with bugs on herbstone, so I think this is a good thing. So here is a very good example. Okay, so here's a leaf, and here's a whole brand new leaf set. So I'm going to cut right there. Cut that off. This really will benefit tremendously from being cut back. Whoops. All right. Let me see if you can see this. All right, so you've got, actually here, you know what, I'm just going to take it off. So here's the top leaf, and here's the new leaf. So this is where I'm cutting, right there. So that's where I'm cutting herbstone. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go all around, and I'm going to cut this back to where there's a new set of leaves that will take this down. Now, I'm going to do the same thing. This is, that's Kareen. And the name of this is escaping me at the moment, even though I know what it is. But same thing, it's a Rebecca. So same thing, we're going to take this, we're going to cut this back by a third to, again, we're going to go down to a new leaf bud, and we're going to take that down. These things all flop really badly if I don't, because you can see they all have supports because they just get so out of hand. So you're going to go all around the plant and do exactly what I just showed you. Take it down. Again, don't worry about taking off too much. You know, you're not cutting this to the ground. This is not fall. We're not cutting this all the way down. We're just trying to, you know, get rid of some of this excessive growth that these plants put on. It'll help them bush out more. It'll help with the growth of the plant. It'll help get some more air into the plant. So hopefully we won't have any bugs. So this one over here is called Kareen. Spreading like crazy. Again, I'm going to do the same thing to it. I'm going to go down to a leaf node. Let me show you. Okay, so here's an example. Okay, here's the new top growth. I'm going to go down to the leaf set, and that's where I'm going to cut it. And I'm going to do that all the way around to take down the height of this plant. Because otherwise, even this huge tower will not support it. So we're going to go down, we're going to cut, and we're going to be fearless when it comes to cutting. We're not going to worry about it. We're not going to kill these plants. And we're going to just go around and do this. Now, like I said, there are other plants you can do this with. These are the main ones in my yard. Typically, well, right now, my coneflowers are not that big. I have some right here in front of me. I have coneflowers right here. You can see that they don't need to be cut back yet, so there's nothing to do there. Same with my black-eyed Susans, are still pretty low. My Phlox doesn't need to be cut back, pinched back. My Penstemons doesn't. These in my yard are the main ones that I like to use. Okay, so I mentioned dahlias need to be pinched. Now, unless you're a cut flower gardener, but if you're just gardening for flowers, and that's what I do, when dahlias get to be this size, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of leaves. You're going to take and pinch out this entire center, okay? You're going to take this right off. Hang on, I should have brought a clipper with me. Hang on. Okay, you're going to take that entire center off. I'll make a clean cut. This encourages the plant to branch out. It'll produce more leaves. Don't worry, you're not killing your dahlia. So that's pinching dahlias. So this is a Stilby Chocolate Shogun. It is one of my absolute favorite perennials. Gets a lovely flower stalk. I love the dark leaves. We had a serious freeze, not just a frost. We actually had a freeze here in Connecticut last week, and it literally fried this plant. So I'm going to have to come back. I'm going to cut this all the way back, get all this dead foliage off. At first I was thinking to myself, when I first saw it, I was like, wow, maybe my sprinklers aren't running yet, and you know, things really need water. But nope, it was a freeze. I had this happen on a lot of plants. I had it happen. I have some Tough Stuff hydrangeas that had already really started to leaf out, and I lost a bunch of the leaves. Now these plants will all survive. They just, you know, it is what it is. Once things are fully leafed out like this, and you have a freeze, things are going to get damaged. Just cut off the damage, and you'll be good to go. So I'll show you another. I'll show you a hydrangea that I just bought and what happened to it happened to it. This is Wee Bit Grumpy. Now, I actually just bought this to replace Wee Bit Grumpy that died last year. Well, what I didn't think about when we had I knew we were going to have a freeze. I ran out. I did bring a lot of stuff in. The problem is I completely forgot that this hydrangea was completely leafed out because I just bought it. You know, when you buy something at a nursery, they're pushing this stuff. They want these things to be, you know, ready to flower, so you want to buy them. And look what happened to it. It's totally same thing. So I'm going to have to take this back. Will it bloom this year? Honestly, it might not. Wee Bit Grumpy is one that you really wouldn't be pruning at this time of year, unlike your panicle hydrangeas. And so I'm going to be taking this again back to, you know, it's going to be pretty severe, but I'm going to have to cut it all the way back to get all this dead stuff off. And the plant will survive, just may not bloom this year. So that happened to a few of my hydrangeas. So if that happened to you, you know, if you don't live in this area, you might not have had this problem, but it's been a weird spring. It's going up, it's going down. One day it's 80, next day it's 30. The nights finally seem like they may be monitoring a little bit. So let me, while I'm here, let me just talk about one other thing. I have a lot of my dahlias, like I said, in pots. And as I walk around the garden, you can see I have a lot of new plants that I'm putting in, or things that I'm switching up. I still haven't finished my winter cleanup. So if you're like me, it's too soon to put down mulch. Why do you want to put down mulch? Mulch is great for keeping in moisture, for helping suppress weeds. I mean, it looks nice, obviously. It helps, with beneficial insects. Um, it's not just decorative. It breaks down, it provides fertilizer, and over the years, now I have very hard clay soil here. We live in Burlington, Connecticut. There's clay soil everywhere here. You dig down just a little bit and it's rock hard. By adding compost and mulch every single year, I'm making my beds a little bit looser and a little bit looser and a little bit looser. So this is a project that I've been on for the last 7 years because we don't have good soil here. And in order to be able to grow things, you have to constantly keep amending it and fertilizing. Hope that's helpful. Hope you understand why mulch is not just decorative. Personally, now this is just a personal comment, I hate colored mulch. I always use natural colored, dirt colored brown mulch. I happen to really like mulch that is very small. I don't like the big chunks. They just don't break down as well. And this breaks down over time. Again, adds fertilizer into the soil, helps loosen the soil, and it's a good benefit for your yard. Hope you found all this interesting. Again, any questions, please just ask me. Now, something that I think could be very useful. I don't know if you get gardening magazines. I get a lot of gardening magazines. Obviously, I also watch other YouTubers who are experienced gardeners just like myself. You never know, you're always learning. In Connecticut, we have something called Connecticut Gardener Magazine. You might get Fine Gardening Magazine. I also get Garden Gate Magazine. Just depends maybe what's local in your state. They always have, no matter where you are, they always have some great information. So our Connecticut Gardener Magazine always tells us what we should be doing in the garden now. So again, we just talked about pinching back our summer flowering perennials for height control. It's exactly what it says right here. Deadhead or cut back or shear spring flowering perennials when they fade. Don't cut your lilacs and your forsythia till after they're finished. Do you want to transplant? Do you want to divide things? It's a good time to do it. All right. It gives you suggestions, specific suggestions. Here it says roses. Roses are heavy feeders. Apply 1 cup of balanced organic fertilizer per large bush in May and June. Lightly scratch it into the soil. Scratch in a heaping teaspoon of Epsom salts around each plant to promote basal shoots. There's great information in these kinds of magazines. So if you have one that's local to your area, or just a garden club that you can participate in, there's usually always information about what to do in your area. So I'm in zone 6. If you're in zone 3, you're doing different things. If you're in zone 8, you're doing very different things than I'm doing right now. Do we all kind of get to a balance out point? Pretty much. It depends. In the middle of the country, I'd say zones 5, 6, 7, we kind of all get to a certain spot where we're all doing the same things. But in the meantime, pay attention to your zone, pay attention to your soil, consider looking for things, like I said, like local magazines. This is Connecticut Gardener. If you don't subscribe to it and you live in Connecticut, it's a great magazine. Again, Garden Gate is another one. I always have I've got back issues for years and years and years. What I typically do when I am going through a magazine, you'll see I've highlighted stuff. And if there's something I don't want to forget, like do this in June, I will take this and I will put it in a folder of what to do in June. That way I can pull that folder out and it's like, okay, this month I need to not forget to do this. Because just like you, I have a million projects. I can't even begin to tell you, like my to-do list is longer than my body. So this way, even I forget to do things. It's like, oh, I meant to do that. Oh, I meant to do that. Well, suddenly now it's too late. And, some things are better done at the right time. So consider local magazines or get some national gardening magazines that have that kind of information for you. Hope that's helpful. I want to apologize in advance. There were some technical issues with this whole video. I hope you managed to watch it and get something out of it. Like I said, it is time to start pinching back your herbaceous perennials and then plan on some of the annuals that also need pinching back. Again, this is not deadheading. Hopefully some of this information was valuable. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe, hit that like button. It really does make a difference, and I'll see you in the next video.